Hi everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about the book series that I am currently reading, DNFing, in the middle of, that I've finished. Just talk about all the series that I want to talk about, basically. I was originally going to try to do these videos like every quarter or so, but I keep overrunning, so I'm just going to do them like 2 or 3 times a year so I can keep you guys updated on my series plans. For the most part, I think these are fantasy and sci-fi series, but we've got a mixture of thrillers in there as well. So this kind of video isn't only for fantasy and sci-fi readers. I haven't really decided how I'm going to split this up yet. Obviously I'm going to talk about the series that I have read and then my plans for the rest of the year at the end of the video. So I think what I'll do is I will focus on, first of all, series that I specifically started this quarter, or not really quarter, but like up until now between videos. Since my last video, I have started 9 more series. 3 of these 9 series have been rereads. 1 of these series that I started, I have already finished. 2 of these series I have DNF'd. 3 of these series are ones that I'm waiting for a sequel for, and 1 of these series I am actively working on the sequel. So let me talk about those series in a bit more detail. Let's start with my rereading first, because I always like to talk about those. We have Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. I first read this one back in 2011, I think. I did have a little card in here which told me. Yeah, so May 10th, 2011, I started this series, and I did read the entire first trilogy at the time, but I didn't recap them for my website because I didn't have my website at that point. So I have decided to do a quick reread. I say quick, but I've only so far reread this first one and it wasn't as good as I remember it being, so that's a bit disappointing. So this is about a girl who has some magical powers. I can't remember exactly what she can do, but she is about to be executed for having such powers, and then she is chosen to become the king's poison tester, or the commander's poison tester. So her life is at risk all the freaking time. She becomes friends with the captain or guard, captain of the guard or something. It all escalates from there. I didn't love the reread, to be honest, but I do want to carry on with the series because if I remember correctly, it does get better. It's just a shame I didn't love this one as much as I thought I did. Another series that I reread and finished completely was Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. So I picked these up kind of on a whim. I went to get them from my granddad's house, which is where they had been sat for ages since I moved out, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep them on my shelf because they're older YA books. This first one I think came out in like 2010. I wasn't sure if I would still enjoy it or if I'd ever reread it again after this next time, and then I ended up marathoning the entire trilogy in like 2 days because they were so good. It's definitely a 5-star series. I love it so much. This is about the main character called Sophie, who is a witch, and she keeps misbehaving and losing control of her powers accidentally in the normal world. So she is sent to a place called Hex Hall, which is a school for witches and various other magical beings. And there is a mystery in this book that kind of takes place in all 3 books, so I don't really want to go into detail about what it is, but this first one is about Sophie introducing herself to the magical realm because she's not really grown up there before, learning more about her father, who is magical, who I don't think she's ever met. As far as I can remember, there is no cat, and that is my only criticism of this series, that this cat appears on all of the covers and there is no cat in the series. So I reread this first one and the other 2 books in the trilogy and I loved it. 5 stars for the trilogy overall. I think I gave this first one 4 stars and the other 2 5 stars because they were really, really good. The other series is one that I am actively rereading and I'm doing a reading vlog for, and that is Throne of Glass. So I initially, back in the day, in 2015, read all the way up to and including Queen of Shadows, and then by the time Empire of Storms came out I was in a massive reading slump and I wasn't on Booktube. I had kind of quit everything. I met my partner and he was very distracting, and then I've been meaning to pick up this series again for years because I remember loving Queen of Shadows. I gave it 5 stars, and then I finally did after I read another book that I'm going to talk about in a little while. It got me back in the fantasy zone, and so I've been rereading all of these. As of right now, I have reread all the way up to and including Queen of Shadows, and I've also read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn for the first time. Didn't love Tower of Dawn. I'm gonna have to be honest, it could have been 200-300 pages, a much shorter book than it was, and I would have gotten the same stuff out of it. I still hate Kale, I think he's useless. I do really like Irene though, but mainly I like Aelin, and I'm going to do a whole reading vlog for this entire series and talk about like my likes, dislikes, criticisms and all of that. But I'm really enjoying rereading this one, and I will talk about it more later on in the video and also in my specific reading vlog. Okay, and then I have 2 series which I started and then have DNF'd. The first one is Walk on Earth, a Stranger. This one is the first book in the Gold Sears series by Ray Carson, who is an author that I've read from before. I was expecting this to be a very heavy fantasy book but set in the real world, but that's actually not the case. This didn't really talk about the main character's magical powers all that much. Basically, the main character can sniff out gold like a gold seeker, and she doesn't really use that all that often. I'll talk about this more in my August wrap up, but it was a bit disappointing, so I gave this 3 stars, and I feel like it wrapped up at the end in such a way that I don't really need to carry on with the series. So I'm going to get rid of this and probably forget all about it because I don't really feel the need to finish it. I also started and DNF'd Red Dirt Road. So this one is a crime thriller book, and I think it's actually the 2nd or 3rd in a series. They're basically companion books though. I liked it, it was okay, but I don't really feel the need to read it or really talk much about it because I'm gonna have forgotten about it this time next year. So that's on my DNF pile. And then I have 4 book series, that I'm carrying on with, but I'm not up to date with yet. The first one is Belladonna. This is by Adeline Grace, and this is a gothic historical fantasy. The main character can see death and people around her keep dying, and then she has to go and live with some cousins in their mansion and figure out who is poisoning her cousin, one of her cousins. I loved this one so much so that I did get the 2nd book in hardback as well, and I bought this one after I'd borrowed it from the library. It's a really good series, so I'm looking forward to carrying on with this one ASAP. And then the other 3 series that I started that I am carrying on with, I'm waiting for the sequel to come out. So the first one is The Lies of the Ajongo. This is a short story by Tor. Loved this one. This one is about a boy who comes from a city that doesn't have good access to water. It's basically in the middle of the desert, and he is told if he goes out and looks for water then his mum will be saved. He goes out into the desert and then he realizes things that aren't really as they seem. A lot happens in this tiny novella. I actually wish that this was a full-length novel, but I'm looking forward to reading the sequel when that comes out. I've also read and will carry on with The Daughters of Istahar. So this is the first book in a duology. This is Egyptian inspired. It's about people with elemental powers. There's a lot of politics happening in this one, and for such a short book, quite a lot of political stuff actually happens. There's also a sapphic romance in here, and I thought it was going to be between the 2 main characters, but it's not. One of the main characters is interested in a rebel leader, and the second main character is interested in the first main character's husband because they're in an arranged marriage. I did really enjoy this one, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. I think it's coming out next year, but I'm not sure if a date has been confirmed yet, and I don't think there's a cover. I've also started the Fourth Wing series. My copy doesn't have a dust jacket because I got it for cheap. Everyone knows what this one's about. I'm going to do a recap of this one on my channel if you are interested. Stay tuned for that. I haven't yet decided on the format of that recap. I don't know if it's going to be like a murder board behind me, or if I'm going to try and do some drawings, because I can't draw, but I quite like the idea of doing some really awful drawings of dragons. But anyway, I really enjoyed this first book, and I've already pre-ordered the sequel, which is coming out in November. This is about dragon riders and wing leaders and stuff, and a fantasy war that's going on. Yeah, love this one. This is the one that got me back into reading fantasy. This is why I picked up the Throne of Glass series, because I do think they've got similar vibes, and I was really craving something like what this one gave me. So in addition to those, there are a few series that I'm also actively working on. As we speak, I'm currently reading Foxglove, which is the sequel to Belladonna. Like I said, it's gothic historical fantasy. I'm not very far in at the moment. I'm only 40 pages or so, and I'm not loving it as much as I did Belladonna, but it's only the start of the book, and I did think that Belladonna had a bit of a slow start as well. So this one is one that I'm going to finish probably by the end of August if I can get my act together, and I'm hoping I will love this one too. I adore this cover. The US covers are absolutely awful in comparison. I think these are absolutely, where is it? I've lost Belladonna. I think they're absolutely stunning. This one particularly with the sort of fox with the dead eyes. I think they're amazing. So I'm fully expecting this to be a series that I really enjoy. I'm also working my way through Lore Olympus. So this is only volume 3, and I have read up to, I think, whereabouts the series was in June. In terms of the graphic novels, I don't think I've read anything since June, but I do want to do a bit of a reread, maybe a volume like 4 onwards, and then catch up with the web comics because they are all uploaded for free. I don't need to keep buying these, but I really enjoy them. Really like the art style and how colourful it all is. And now that I've read past where these physical books are, I'm really into this series. I think the first few, maybe 2 volumes, maybe 3, they're a bit sus, and I didn't necessarily love them, but the more into this series I am, the more I'm treating it as a soap opera, and I am really enjoying it. And I'm also currently working on the Princess Diaries series. This is one that I'm reading on my Kindle just when I'm knackered and I'm in bed. So I read books 2, 3 and 4 since the last video that I uploaded about this. Everyone knows what Princess Diaries is about. The main character finds out that she's a secret princess and she has to take princess lessons, and there's a lot of drama and paparazzi and all of that. So I really enjoyed books 2 and 3. Book 4 was really boring, so I'm taking a quick break from that because I'm not reading before bed to be bored. I want a distraction, but I'm thinking I'm going to get back into this in like mid-September, I'm feeling. And then I also completed 6 series since the last video, which I think is amazing. I'm doing really well with my series reading this year. I haven't really been doing much in the past couple of years because I've been more focused on thrillers, but now that I'm getting back into speculative fiction, I'm actually doing a really good job of reading through. So first of all, I completed the Lock and Key series by reading a companion book called The Golden Age. I did enjoy this one. I spoke about it in one of my wrap-ups. I finished the main series years ago, and it's one of my all-time favourite graphic novel series, or just series in general. And I liked The Golden Age, but it wasn't amazing, and I don't know if there are any more companion books for this, but I'm not really too interested in reading them. And then, like I said, I completed Hex Horse. That was my second series that I completed. I also read Lights, which is another graphic novel series. This one is the third book in the Sheets series, which is about a young girl who is helping her family run a laundrette, and also a ghost who comes into the human realm as a sheet. In this third book, we're mainly focused on his backstory, which I really enjoyed, and I just love this series. I think it's really cute. It's not something that I would necessarily buy for myself, but I got them all from the library, and then I got the third book from NetGalley, and I did really enjoy it. That's coming out in September. I also read A Prayer for the Crown Shy finally. This is by Becky Chambers. It's the second Monk and Robot book, which is a sci-fi book. I thought this was okay. I'm not probably going to reread this duology. I, like I said, don't really like short stories, and it's a tiny novella, but also it just doesn't have the same like heart as The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. They're very different sci-fi books. So I'm going to keep this because I do really like Becky Chambers. It's an art copy, which I'm very pleased to have, and I'm glad that I have finished it, but it's not one that I'm going to reread. I also read Finding Bear, which meant I completed the Last Bear or Bear series. It's currently a duology. This last one is coming out in September, I think. It's a middle grade series set in some islands off Norway, and the main character has to go there with her dad for his job, and she comes across a polar bear and they make friends. In the second one, she has to return to the island because she knows that her bear is crying out for help. And then the final one, the 6th series that I finished, was Wool by Hugh Howey, because I watched the TV series Silo and I decided that it's finally time that I read the third book. So this was a reread, Shift, the second book, and I liked this one a lot more than I did the first time that I read it. This was more of a backstory about the origins of the Silo, and I did really enjoy it actually. It was a good mystery, I guess, yeah, just history of what's going on. And then I finally read Dust, which wasn't a reread. I haven't read this one before, and this was okay. It was a bit disappointing. I don't think Jules was kind of the same as she was in the first book. I love her in Wool, she's the main character, but in this one she just spent most of the time crying, and I know that it's a very upsetting situation, but she didn't really have much else going on, and that was disappointing. And then also, once you start thinking too much about the logistics of what's going on here with the Silo, it starts to not make so much sense, which was disappointing. But I'm glad I finished this series finally, because they have been on my shelves for years. I can't remember when I first read Wool, but it was probably like 2013 or something. So yeah, this has been ongoing for a decade, and I'm glad that I finally finished it. But I'm going to unhaul these because I'm not going to reread them, but I'm really enjoying the show. I'd recommend the show. Okay, so now I think I'm going to talk to you about my reading plans in terms of the series that I am going to be focusing on. I have a few series that I want to start, but I'm mainly focusing on series that I am going to be carrying on with or finishing. I have a lot of series behind me that I can be starting, and I don't want to show you my entire series TBR just yet. If you're interested in seeing that, then I can definitely do that. I can maybe break it up into fantasy and sci-fi series that I have on my TBR. For the purposes of this video and video series, I wanted to talk about the ones that I'm going to be like tackling actively. So first of all, I have A Conjuring of Light. So the spin-off book in this series is coming out soon. I don't know exactly when. I read A Darker Shade of Magic when it first came out, really enjoyed it. I loved A Gathering of Shadows, and then I never read the last book in the series because I'm terrible at finishing series, as you can probably tell. But I am getting better, and I really want to read the spin-off book, and I can't remember the title. I think it's Fragile Threads of Power, maybe. Regardless, the cover's going to be on the screen. So I really need to read A Conjuring of Light before I get to that one. I know nothing about this book in terms of spoilers. I've managed to avoid spoilers for absolute years, so I'm really pleased with that. I'm also going to be reading Reaper of Souls. I'm actually reading this one in August, so I might have finished it by the end of the month. This is the sequel to Kingdom of Souls. It's basically about demons in a fantasy world. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think I'm about 100 pages in or so. It's a really easy read, so that should be an easy one for me to knock off my list. I'm probably not going to read the final book in the series in the next like quarter or few months or so. So that's just one that I'm carrying on with. Other series that I'm going to carry on with but not necessarily finish are Finley Donovan. This is the second book, and someone requested that I recap it for Recap Tins and then carry on with the series. I didn't love the first book. I only gave it 3 stars. This is a contemporary mystery series about an author called Finley Donovan who gets caught up in like hijinks. I've not heard great things about the follow-up books in this series, even from people who really enjoyed the first one. So I don't think I'm going to love this, but I do need to read it because I said that I would for the person who requested a recap. So this one's on my list. I'm also currently reading Foxglove, like I said, so I'm going to read this and then catch up with the series. But I think it might be a trilogy, so I'm a bit nervous about how this one is going to end. We will see. But this is one that I'm going to finish off very soon. And I also really need to work on Heart of Flames. I met the author last month or beginning of this month, and she was absolutely lovely. She's actually brought out a new book that's not in this series. It's called Bonesmith. That means that I'm really behind on, oh, you can see them. You can see it here, as well as the final book in this series. And I've been meaning to carry on with the series for like 2 years now because I really enjoyed the first book. I gave it 5 stars. It's about Phoenix Riders. I think if you enjoyed Fourth Wing, you'll really enjoy Crown of Feathers, the first book in this series. So I'm going to be focusing on this one after I've finished Throne of Glass, I think, because this will be a really good series for me to marathon and finally get through. I'm also going to be carrying on with the Study trilogy, the second book, Magic Study. I'm not expecting to love this one, to be honest, but I do need to recap it because someone asked me to. So this one is obviously a follow-up to Poison Study. There are 2 series that I'm definitely going to finish in the next few months. I'm allowing myself to mood read a lot of the others because, like my starting series TBR, I do actually have a lot of series that I could finish off. These are the 2 ones that are definite on my list because it's ridiculous that I haven't finished them already. So the first one is Illusionary. This is the sequel to Incendiary. This is just a duology and I really enjoyed the first book. I read it with my book club and we all really enjoyed it, and I think some of them have since finished this duology but I have not because I'm really bad at reading final books in a series, but I do want to read this by the end of the year. And then I also have Kingdom of Ash. This is going straight on my September TBR. I'm really excited for this one. I'm really excited but also nervous to see how it's going to go and where my favourite characters are going to end up. I did see a spoiler on Goodreads, which was in the first line of someone's review for this book, which I really didn't appreciate, and I was about to shout at them, but I was like, I'm not going to be that kind of person who goes on Goodreads and shouts at people. They told me about a certain character who is in this one, which I didn't know about because I don't know anything else about this book because people have done really well not to spoil me on it, and I've avoided any mention of this book up until now. But I do know about that and now I'm slightly put off, but I do want to know what happens with my favourite characters, so looking forward to reading this one. I'm probably going to read this first in September. So those are the 2 that I'm definitely finishing off, and then I have some series that I need to start, either rereads or new to me book series that are definitely going on the list. Like I said, I might pick up any of these, but these are ones that are for sure on there. So I'll start with my rereads because those are going to be easier to talk about. First of all, I have 1,000 Pieces of You. This is a parallel dimension sort of book and I really want to read the entire trilogy in the next few months. I don't know if I can commit to finishing the whole thing by the end of the year, but I loved this one. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars when I first read it, when it first came out, so I'm looking forward to finishing this off. And then I also want to reread A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I haven't decided if I want to start with the short story or if I want to read this and then the short story, so they're both here. I'm doing a project, 2 projects actually, on this series because I love this series so much. If you don't know, this series is set in the county that I live in the UK, and so for my first project I'm going to be doing a reading vlog and taking you around to every place that is mentioned in these books so you guys can visualize it and see what Holly Jackson meant by all of this. And then my next project is going to be a recap of this series because, like I said, I need to recap Fourth Wing for my channel because I really want to bring my book summaries to Booktube because I think it'll be helpful. Not everyone likes to read a book summary. A lot of people like something a bit more interactive, so I need to get started on that. And then I also want to reread Poison Princess by Kirsty Cole because this series I think is finally ending. I don't think I'm going to love this reread, to be honest, but I did really enjoy the first book when I read it. It's like your typical urban fantasy, but it's post-apocalyptic. And it's kind of dealing with tarot, if I remember correctly, and the world is ending. So I think this could be a fast read. The only reason I'm rereading this is so that I can recap the first 2 books for Recap Tins and then decide if I want to carry on with it. I might just DNF this series, I don't know. But I remember enjoying it at the time. Granted, I was 10 years younger than I am now, so I might not love it as much this time around. We will see. And then finally, I have 3 series that I definitely want to start in the next few months. The first one being Son of the Storm. I don't actually know what this series is called. The Nameless Republic, it says on the spine. I don't know loads about this one. I just know a few booktubers who absolutely love it. So I'm looking forward to diving into this one. I do think from the vibes that it's going to be one that I enjoy, and also I love this cover, so it's calling to me, and I think the sequel is coming out early next year. I also really want to start Ink and Bone. I don't need to recap this one for Recaptains because it's already up. Someone else did it for me, but this is a fantasy book set around the Library of Alexandria, which in this alternate history never burnt down, and so knowledge has been shared with the world, and I think it's like magical knowledge or something. I really enjoy Rachel Cane's books. I've read the first couple of Morganville Vampires books, which I do want to reread, but not anytime soon, and I've read her Stillhouse Lake series, which I loved. Unfortunately, Rachel Cane has passed away now. I think she had cancer, and so we're not going to get any new books by her, but I do have a massive backlog of hers to get through, so I'm very grateful that she was such a prolific author, because I do really enjoy her writing style. So I'm going to jump into this one. And then finally, for this video, I want to read Ithaca. This is the story of Penelope, who is the wife of Odysseus from the Odyssey. She is left behind in Ithaca and she has to run the place, I think, so it's a story of her. The sequel just came out. It's called The House of Odysseus, I think. And I don't know if it's a duology, if it's going to be a trilogy, but I've had this on my list for ages. I have an arc of it and I just didn't get to it. So I'm looking forward to giving this one a go as well. So that's my series wrap up from the last few months. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these, your thoughts on them, if there are any particular series that you'd like me to start with or finish. I haven't picked out too many series to start, like I said, because I have so many series here that I could be starting. So if you do see any behind me that you think I should give a go sooner than I'm planning, like after Christmas or something, then I will try and pull it forward, because I'm having a great time trying to get through all of my series this year and I would love the extra challenge. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy it, and check out my Recaptains website as well, where I post book summaries of loads of books and series. I think we have over 500 summaries at the moment, which are part of, I think, over 300 series. I don't know if I'm getting my own stats right, but my point is we have a lot, and I'm constantly updating the website because, again, I'm reading so many series now. So again, thank you for watching. I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye.